Welcome to Brightly, You Radiant Being, the show that wildly recognizes, encourages, and invests in the radiance we all carry so that you can shine your brightest. We're just a couple curious people interested in friendship, ideas, and personal development. This is a show that strives to speak to the curious, to those who long to explore new ways of thinking, reflecting, and being. Through sharing our experiences, friendship, and interests, we hope to impact you to step more brightly into yourself inch by inch.
I love it.
Hi.
Hello.
Ma, you're looking rather golden today.
I feel rather golden today. You're looking rather golden and shimmery yourself.
I'm feeling rather bright and shiny at the moment.
I know we decided just to kind of go over the top with this whole thing, and I'm happy we did. Although when my husband said you need a necklace, I put a necklace on and then I put earrings on, then I put more earrings, then I put bracelets on, then I was like, I'm wearing all my jewelry.
And you look great in it.
So, I mean, we are on episode 15.
15.
15.
We kept with it.
I know. Well, for 15 times we did. But I know that we've been thinking about all the ways that we've been sharing, just to kind of help everyone discover maybe what's holding them back, holding ourselves back from who we want to be, who we feel like we are at our core. And we talk, so much about reflecting and healing, and we talk a lot about shadow work,
You don't
right?
say.
Yeah.
I mean, do we reflect on the show?
We've reflected on the shadow many times. But Tracy actually shared with me this super cool thing, and it became the basis of this show. And I just want you to share what you shared with me.
Yeah, I, like many people this past year, have really gotten into TikTok. I'm one of the over 30 crowd on TikTok, and I have no shame. I now watch it instead of television, and I like to share the TikToks, many of them, with my friends. There was one late winter, early spring that really, it really inspired me, but I also felt like it connects with everything we've talked about so far. So at Betty Robo or Robbo, BETTY.ROBBO, want to make sure I give her credit. She asked in her TikTok, have you ever looked at someone in complete awe and thought, wow, what they're doing is amazing? Have you ever thought to yourself, I wish I could do that, or even I like them so much and what they stand for? So she goes on to say that what you find yourself admiring in other people is actually your hidden potential. And that was just like an aha moment for me.
So like that, even though I've heard it and we've talked about it, you just saying that still gave me chills again.
Isn't it nice as an adult, and we're at much different stages in our life, but to still see yourself as having potential? Like, that gives me hope.
I know.
That I'm not fully formed yet. I still have room to grow and improve, or just further enhance and showcase what I have. But so it turns out, and she kind of shares a little bit about this, it's actually from a concept that Carl Jung, surprise, has, that these are actually your golden shadows. So what you're seeing in other people are your golden shadows, and that is actually your submerged greatness.
Who wouldn't? I mean, honestly, I have submerged greatness. Okay, sign me up, right? And one thing I just want to clarify about Carl Jung, that the reason why you were like shocking or surprised is because he's also the person who, psychologist, who coined the term shadow work. And that is where we come up with that. He's not the first one to do it, but he kind of coined it. So anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Submerged greatness.
Submerged greatness. And how many of us wade in that pool of, just treading water in the stuff we think we're bad at, our ungreatness.
Yes.
I don't want to say
our weakness,
our weaknesses.
Yeah. Our the things
Our
we're
shadows.
ashamed of. Yes, our shadows.
Shadows. So, part of Jungian psychology and the overall concept of this is that he believes that there's not only darkness in the shadow, but also gold. And also that 90% of the shadow is pure gold.
I can't even fathom that, because I don't think anyone thinks that they have even a minuscule amount of that much gold in them, right? If we even think.
I would have thought it would
No.
have been the opposite. 90%
Yes.
shadow work, traumas, things like that. And then
Mhm.
10% like, oh, here's what you still have left to do. And to think of it
Right.
in the reverse is a little overwhelming, but still exciting.
Yeah. It is a little overwhelming, isn't it? Because then it's sort of like that analogy about you only use 10% of your brain. And then you're like, what could I do if I use the whole thing? So if I'm 90% gold in my shadow, it's like, what the hell have I been doing?
But it's also, I, as hard as it is for me to see that about myself, I see that in other people. Like,
Of course.
I would say you're 90% gold any day of the week. My best friends, my close friends, colleagues, yeah, the people I admire and that I look up to and those golden shadows that TikTok referred to, I see them as 90% gold. And do they see themselves that way? Are we just inherently built to not
Yeah.
recognize that?
Such a good point. Yeah. And I think that maybe we need to start pointing that out more often to people too. Like the gold in me sees the gold in you, right? I don't know.
I think we might need to establish a stronger listening base before we just start going around and saying,
Yeah.
maybe we just start it. Maybe it becomes a thing in Minneapolis. We start we start at our employer and see how big it grows.
There you
I
go.
love that. But so when I started diving into this concept of golden shadow, because it was completely new to me, I hadn't heard of it before. And I love just looking at the people I admire in that way, that it's not just like this unattainable skill set, or talent that they have, but maybe something I, I want, or that is potentially in me that I'm seeing reflected in them. But it's also what we project onto others, things about ourselves we reject because they shine too bright,
Yeah.
things about ourselves that we're overwhelmed by them, and so we ignore them or shove them down deeper.
Mhm.
And then also, according to Jung, our beauty, knowledge, and power, which we reject and even project on others instead. As with all shadow projections, we see these aspects in others instead of ourselves. We may idolize a famous figure for their beauty, talent, or altruism while denying our own.
Again, with the chills all over. It's pretty amazing when you think about that. Like it feels as if this knowledge is a gift. And all we have to do is unwrap it. That's all we have to do. I mean, maybe we have to do a little bit more. Like, first, we got to clean the house, then we unwrap the gift,
Yeah.
right? It's,
It's
oh,
just, it's already there. And if we start with, people we admire,
yeah.
that doesn't even require having done any prior shadow work or having to, go up against any fears or self-limiting beliefs. Like, that is just straight up. I would imagine almost everybody has people that they have looked up to at some point in their life.
Absolutely. And I think that sometimes, I guess what this did for me, because even though I'd never heard of the concept before, I had always had a feeling of like a little bit of excitement when I saw somebody doing something that either there was a just kind of an inkling inside of me, like I could do that, or I've thought of that thing before, or whatever. But before, when it felt like, oh, but I didn't do it and they did it better. Now, what this has done is it's like I see that thing and then I go, oh, I see that in you. I wonder how I could bring that something like that forth, because that's exciting to me. And I bet I could do that as well, but from my perspective, right?
I love that. When I first entered sales, I had a really hard time because the company I was working for wasn't very innovative. That we had some big name clients in the retail sphere for what we did design work for. And I always felt like we were, borrowing and stealing from others. And I learned both from the people I worked with and then our clients that we were a vendor for, you don't have to be first. You have to be the best. And so while somebody else may have inspired us, we did it better. And sometimes it's hard to see, uh, big corporations versus the little guys. So I'm not talking about
Mhm.
corporations and, you see a lot of social media influencers that actually do steal verbatim copy and take advantage of,
Yeah.
of the little guy. But I just think this concept that you said of like, I'm seeing it in someone else and I'm going to flip it into something that still, brings me enthusiasm and excitement, but is more representative of me. Like I'm going to find that piece
Mhm.
that I see in you that I'm connecting with and make it my own, or remove, the shell
Remove,
of
yeah,
myself.
remove the blocks
Yeah.
that are over it, and then bring it out to what I actually could give to the world, right? Oh,
I love that. And it also, who's it that said it? Was it Paul Wellstone? We all do better when we all do better. And
I
so
think it was.
yeah, so taking that
Yeah.
scarcity mindset out of it, of somebody else is
Mhm.
already doing it, so I can't. And instead of being like, wow, I can do that too, and the world
Yeah.
will be better for it. I'll reach a different audience. I'll inspire somebody else. I'll inspire someone in a new way. I'll reach somebody that the other person couldn't.
I think that's so important to point out that that actually does come from a scarcity, a lack mindset. And you just saying it right now made me realize that that is what it comes from, because I hadn't thought of that either. So I think that's important for just for the listener just to say, oh, I'm this is coming from lack. Like I don't have to feel that way.
Yeah, I think competition is healthy in life, but it needs to
Mhm.
come from a drive to reach your own personal milestones and not a drive to better someone else. And I think that's where we get caught up, and that it's always a race or it's always about points. And instead, I want to look at somebody else, be inspired by them, and have their success drive me to be more ambitious for my own success.
Yes.
Not to better them, not to replace them, but to also hustle, to also shine, to also, like you said, uncover those parts of me and be that, more authentic self. It
Yeah,
has to come from that place of abundance.
it sure does. And honestly, like we always go over the notes, and again, I hadn't thought of that. To uncover your golden shadow, it does have to come from a place of abundance, because you have to feel that abundance of self-worth, of creativity, of all those things. And I think with that abundance, it also is like, if you're putting it out in the world, someone else might look at that and say, oh, I like that. I bet I could do that. And you have to be willing to put your ideas out there and let other people take pieces of them, right?
Yeah. I just think, I have these two infant nephews that are almost one. They're twins, that's why there are two of them. But when I see videos of them playing and discovering and being curious about the world, um, they're just trying so hard to do the thing that's interesting them. They aren't worried about whether or not they should do the thing, how the other one is doing the thing. I mean,
Well, sometimes.
they may want the thing the other one has, but they're not yet seeing themselves as lacking or comparing, or I should know that already, or not willing to be a beginner. Like everything that, they're walking and crawling and discovering, fine motor skills. And it's just, we aren't born with those limitations. We put them on ourselves and others put them on us.
Yeah. I
So
think
there's
that's a
like that
really good,
uncovering.
yes, I think that's a really good point too, to remember that when you do start actually uncovering your golden shadows and start presenting them into the world, that you are a beginner at this work, right? And maybe the other person who you looked up to has been doing it for a while. So once again, don't come from a place of lack and compare yourself and find yourself lacking, but know that you're a beginner and that you're just going to continue to shine and get brighter and brighter.
I love that, because I think it's so easy when seeing someone that we're projecting a golden shadow onto to presume that this is a natural talent and they're just good at it and they've never had to work at it.
Right.
The number of people, just like for art, for example, they're like, I'm a good drawer because I draw every day for 4 hours a day. This is what I do. I didn't just wake up and could draw one day. It took practice and skill, and we all have our own hidden talents or, motivations and drives that might
Mhm.
help us be better at certain things. But it's so easy to just think things come easy to other people, but they come hard to me. So
Right.
that must mean it's not for me.
Yeah. Honestly, when I think about the first once we started talking about this, I realized the first time that I'm aware of it happening to me, where I actually felt this feeling of seeing someone doing something, and I had like this emotional bridge almost to
Wow.
seeing this person doing it. It was Annette Benning in, oh, what was the gangster movie she was in, with the first Warren Beatty movie, Bugsy?
Okay. I was like, she
Was
was
it?
a gangster.
I don't know, Muggsy, Bugsy, something like that. Anyways, so it was Annette Benning. And I remember watching her act. And in high school and the one year I went to college, I was in acting, and I was always in the school plays and, did a lot of acting. Okay. And I see her. And first of all, there is something about her that at the time when I was younger, there was a similar look.
Sure.
Okay. A little bit. So then it was like, was that supposed to be me? Like literally in
Yeah.
my head, I'm like, oh shit, that was supposed to be
Oh,
me.
like you had a missed opportunity.
Oh yeah. So I saw it, and then it was like crushing. But
Oh.
the stupid thing is, like, I was 30. I was still so young. I could have absolutely gone out the next day and started
You're
auditioning
still so
for
young. You could
roles.
say that today if you saw her in something or somebody else you recognize yourself
Right.
in. But I
Right.
think that's, not only did you, that emotional bridge, but I think you also identified a goal that you wanted, and that for whatever reason your brain also went, oh, and now we can't do it because somebody else did.
Exactly.
But you
Because
wanted to be on the
somebody
screen.
else did. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's
It was,
amazing. I think it's so easy to attribute the aspects of a character to a celebrity.
oh
And
gosh,
then and
yes.
then think that you wanna be that celebrity, when in all actuality, like, these characters in books and film and TV are amazing because, they might have a small aspect of the person playing them, they're definitely bringing something to that, a piece of themselves, but they are acting. They're also being
Mhm.
directed. Somebody else wrote their lines, somebody else designed their clothes, somebody else put them in the perfect setting, and
Someone else is stepping in as a stunt double.
Yeah, they have people training them how to sing and dance and fight choreography, and it's so easy to just see this and be like, man, I wish I was Emma Stone. I, I don't know Emma Stone. I'm sure she's a lovely girl, but I want to be like that character on that screen. And so I think that's
Yeah.
important too for the Golden Shadows, like to recognize what it is specifically. So not to attribute everything to one person or one character, but like, what is it that I'm liking about this? What is it that I'm connecting that's getting me
Yeah.
excited or making me feel bad about myself?
So I feel like now I can see it with discernment a little bit
Mhm.
better, especially since we've started talking about this subject. I can be online and see a creator and say, oh, this piece of this is speaking to me. So
Right.
it's not like the whole package, like I need to dye my hair blonde and then pink and then be a mermaid and, I don't know,
Mhm.
whatever. Right. But now I can say, oh, I like it the way that they do this thing.
And
Or,
sometimes it's the outcome that you like. So sometimes
yeah.
people look at celebrities and what they really want is the fame. What they really want is the money. What they really want is the
Mm,
travel, some aspect of that, or the ability to act in a certain production, and
mhm.
which sounds like it was partially your case. And then sometimes it is more just like character traits or a skill or an ability or something like that. For me, I see golden shadows in others. I didn't have this term for it before, but I was definitely aware I had it. Like I have kind of the people I know personally that I interact with,
Mhm.
people I'm aware of in my real circle. So kind of like my own celebrities. So like maybe people I've been introduced to at work, but I'm not really
Okay.
acquaintances with, or,
Yeah.
even like local elected officials, because, that the people in our office, leaders in our office, I don't know them personally, but the professional side of them or what I've seen them present, like there's definitely golden shadow aspects there that I, would want to prescribe to. And then also like you, just celebs and authors, social media influencers. But for me, so like a big one for
Mhm.
me lately is I've just been talking about my brain crush, John Green. He he's an author, he wrote Fault in Our Stars, Looking for Alaska. He has many different podcasts. He is very influential on YouTube, many different ways to connect with him. But he has a new book coming out, the Anthropocene Reviewed. I highly recommend the podcast and the book when it comes out. But he is signing 250,000 copies. So he agreed to sign the entire first
Oh
printing, and
my gosh.
it's just been increasing as the pre-orders have increased. And so what they do for book signings like that is they just send him these blank sheets of paper that he'll sign individually, and then they'll bind in the book. So it's not like he has 250,000 books in his office, but he has 250,000 sheets of paper. So what he has started to do is while he's signing these pieces of paper, he'll just live stream and talk. And I will listen to this man I have never met answer random questions from teenagers and young adults and just whatever happens to be going on in his head at the time, and just watch him sign hundreds of
So
thousands of pieces of
what
paper.
is it then? What do you think it is?
He has so many thoughts.
Okay, Tracy. I
I've
mean, that sounds like someone I know.
No, but he's a writer even before he was an author. He writes a lot of nonfiction too, and he
Mhm.
writes a lot of essays which require critical thinking. But what
Mhm.
he does is he'll take this thought or an idea or something going on in the public sphere, and then he'll tie it into something else. And like the Anthropocene Reviewed, the whole concept for him right now around it is, instead of just rating things on a scale and taking uh, you know when you rate something, you act as though you're objective. Whether you're a reviewer or somebody on
Good point.
Amazon, you always write it from an objective viewpoint. So what him and his wife pointed out to him is like, no, this is about your experience of the thing. And so the podcast, I highly recommend listening to it. Like the one I saw live that turned me on to this, he took this story of a carnival barker type announcer for hot dog eating contests and turned it into like this allegory for racism and how to be more welcoming and inclusive, and what it's like to be a different race in America, and just and he does it with humor, and he doesn't take himself too seriously either. Like one of the questions that, he makes me laugh out loud, because somebody asked him, what do you think about Jeopardy? And for me, in the news standpoint, with Alex Trebek's passing, they've been
Mhm.
rotating hosts, and some of the hosts have gotten into hot water, either for their selection or for things they've actually said. He said his response to this question was, well, if you're asking about the show, I haven't watched it in years. But if you're asking about like the state or feeling of Jeopardy, I'm in it constantly. And so I have a brain crush on this man. I love how he thinks. I love how he speaks. I love how he presents himself in the world. And I'd say the same thing about Nora Ephron, that I'm, what I like about today is, you get to know the celebrities that you have crushes on, or, have a golden shadow. And so
Mhm.
I've been, instead of just reading her essays and her, biographies and her fiction, I'm listening to her read them via audiobooks. So I get the full effect of, the
Yeah.
weight and meaning, intonation, everything she
And
wanted for
she's
it.
gone now, right?
And she,
She's
yeah, she
she
passed
she
a few years
died.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But she's so witty. And I want to
Yeah.
be that kind of witty. She's and it's just so natural, it just seems like such a part of her personality. But it's like, you know what? She probably had to work at that. She's a writer, she probably had rough drafts of these things. Um
Okay, probably. No, she did. She
yeah.
better have.
So a good example of that, she introduced Meryl Streep at an award show once. So if you just look up Nora Ephron, Meryl Streep award show,
Yeah,
it's,
and Meryl Streep played her in
yes.
was it heartbeat?
Heartburn.
Heartburn. Yeah.
Heartburn. But yeah, so it's things like that where I've been able, at least for my golden shadows, to like narrow it down to what it is specifically
Yes.
about them. But for people I know personally, Amy, you're my golden shadow. That's why I sent you the dang TikTok in the first place. Like, you were the first person I thought of.
That feels, I don't know what to do with that. Thank you. I don't know what to do with that, because there's a part of me that's like, oh, that no, she's going to be
No,
horribly
I'm gonna tell
disappointed.
you just got to take it. You accept it, you receive it, you bathe in it. Here, I'm going to tell you why. You are so, and it's not even just about extroversion, but you're so warm and empathetic. And you just seem like a true, authentic version of you, and that you're constantly still trying to learn and grow, even though you're already amazing and could just stay the same if you wanted to. But I'm always smiling when I talk with you, but I also know I can come to you with the hard stuff. And you've shared things with me before, and we've even talked about when it's come up, at like trainings with other people, and they're like, you can't possibly know what it's like to have a hard time in life. And you're just like, but I can. Like, it's you actively see it as a choice to be a blessing to everyone you meet. We bring that up a lot. And so thank you. Like, you are my golden shadow.
Thank you, Tracy. That I don't know. Sorry. I am at a
Yeah, I
loss
didn't put
for
it in the
words.
show notes, so she
So I feel responsible now to always be like
yourself.
great.
No, be yourself.
Myself. Well, honestly, I think that, at the age that I am, if I'm unhappy with being myself, I have quite a few problems, right?
Yeah.
That would be, but I feel like you're never too old to keep uncovering new aspects of yourself. And I think my mom would have said that. I mean, she did say it. She always said, there's never a line in the sand. There's at no point is it time to end.
I'm gonna go ahead and guess, just based on prior podcasts and conversations, is your mom perhaps your personal golden shadow?
Yeah, absolutely. She was my golden shadow. And the interesting thing with that is that when I was younger, super golden shadow, to the point where I was like, I can never be like that. But then as she grew older and I grew older, I still appreciated the things that I always appreciated. And, the golden shadow part of her, now that I have, vernacular for that. But then I also saw, oh, she's not like a literal goddess on a pedestal.
Yeah, as you've gotten older, you're now a mom too. You've now worked, had a career, had a husband, had a family. And it has to be different. Like, my golden shadows that I've seen in my life, I've been able to control for the most part when I interact with them. But when your golden shadow is somebody in your family, somebody that you don't always have that control of, I can see where it can become that more daunting, or, that lack we were talking about.
Well, especially when I did become a mom, and I felt like she was like the fairy godmother of all mothers, right? Like everything was like magical. Of course it wasn't magical. It was just like my golden shadow freaking brain only remembering like the magical things. But there were some pretty magical things. Like, we went in the backyard and looked for fairies. Like,
that's amazing. I think that's important though, because I look to social media and I really curate my feed so that it's people that make me feel good about myself. And when they stop making me feel good, I mute them. And then if I'm still feeling triggered, or it's just not there anymore, I completely unfollow them. But I think a lot of people fail to do that and fail to recognize that, on Instagram, you're only seeing what they want you to see. At least like John Green and Nora Ephron, they're very self-effacing. They're very much like, here are my faults I'm willing to share with you in a self-deprecating way. So
Mm-hmm.
like there's a human, they're very human to me. And the things that I like about them, common themes for the people on my list are intellect, hard work, discipline, determination, great orators and communicators.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
but let's say the golden shadow you see is somebody who has a perfect body, great hair, great wardrobe, seemingly perfect life, perfect family, and you don't have that. It can seem daunting and hard to think that you can reach that when you're not seeing the parts of their life that mirror your own.
But that's also another one of those points where it's like, it might not be the whole package.
Yeah.
Like your attraction to this person in your feed or on the screen or your next door neighbor, you think it might be the whole package, but it's not. It's this one thing. And I think that for me, what I discovered for my mom was, number one, the fact that if she was like, I have to do this thing, she did that thing.
Mm.
So her motivation and her drive, which I always felt were lacking somehow in myself, right? It was always like, I can do that tomorrow.
Yeah, she had a lot of accomplishments.
Right, she did. So her motivation and drive, and then the fact that she went from being debilitated by thinking about speaking in public to becoming a public speaker, and a very good one at that. So when she was a public speaker, I would see that and just say, that is something, of course, that's radiating to me that I will never be able to do.
That's hard. But that also shows like when you're having those thoughts. So like let's say you have golden shadow people, but they also kind of make you feel bad about yourself in a way too.
Yeah.
It's more, I wish I could do that.
Well,
And I
and
don't
just
want
to clarify, my mom never made me feel bad. Like
Oh, and I
she
didn't.
didn't personally. No, no.
But
Yeah.
that also, it shows that, to be intentional, as with most things we discuss on this show, you have to discover your own gold. And so, if you're feeling
Yes.
envious of someone, what somebody else has, there's a quote by a
Yes.
Jungian psychologist, Marie-Louise von Franz. I want to have a name with von in the middle. The quote is, envy is a misunderstood compulsion to achieve something within oneself that one has neglected.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it brings me back to that Stephen Covey quote that I love, that we tend to judge others on behaviors and ourselves on intentions. And I think when you're aware of unexpressed intentions, wanting to be a public speaker, wanting to influence someone some way, you're going to start to judge yourself on all the things you've never done before, all the inaction, everything that you wanted to do but didn't. And so I like viewing it instead as like, this is just something I haven't nurtured. This is something I haven't watered. I haven't even tried to grow,
Love that.
or it grew and I let it die. Like it's just,
Yes.
it's in you and you're neglecting to see it for what it truly is.
Yeah. And I think you have to be honest with yourself, because if I had been like, I don't feel that way now, but if I had been honest with myself, I would have said, yeah, she also worked freaking hard to become, and she didn't just like pop out a public speaker, obviously debilitating, couldn't. And then she started doing like runway shows where she would be the person who would say what the model was wearing. But it took her like 2 years to be able to do
You don't
just
always
that.
get to see the work the golden shadow
Exactly.
people went in. It's kind of like, let's say I wanted, going back to that neglect piece and what you're nurturing, it's comparing your very first year as a gardener, your rose bush that you're growing from seed, to the state fair award winner who's had this bush for 30 years.
The
Like,
state fair award winner, such a Minnesotan thing.
hey, other states have state fairs.
I know.
You can't compare your beginning to someone else's middle or end.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah, so then for that admiration piece, a quote from David Rico is, we build our pedestals out of our untapped potential.
Ooh.
Yeah, so like you're projecting this on them. Maybe they don't view themselves as great. Maybe they want to be better, but you view them as this amazing thing because of what you want to be.
Well, and I think for me, sorry, I keep going back to me, but I think for me, now that I'm like, oh, let me sit down next to myself and therapize myself. But my mom's public speaking, I didn't want to be a public speaker, but that made it, I think it was a little bit of a trigger for me that you didn't do your acting, right?
Ooh. Hmm.
So I just realized that right now.
You
Hmm.
and maybe that's something that is part of the golden shadow experience too. Maybe you don't want to do anything that person's doing, but they appear to have reached their full potential. And that's what you want in yourself is I
Such a good point. So maybe it's not anything specific to them,
Mhm.
except it is kind of the whole package as far as them reaching their potential.
Yeah.
Oh, such a good point.
And wanting success in your life, maybe wanting, like I said, that
Mhm.
admiration piece or the other
Yeah,
benefits of
yeah.
just being your brightest, shiniest self. So with that, you have to, when you're looking at your untapped potential, um, you again, it brings it back to shadow work that you have to understand your own shame.
We always bring it back to shadow
Yeah.
work.
I'm sorry, it's part of the work. I gotta say, when I first heard this, it was like, yay, bright and shiny, and well, we're gold. And then I dove into it and I was like, are you serious? Like, no, I've been doing the work. I just want to like now blossom into that.
Yeah.
I've been in the dirt. I wanna ready.
I've been doing the work.
The work never ends, I guess.
Nope. That's why I decided to wear black with my shimmery. That's my shadow. That's my shimmery.
But so with that shadow work, I think what's helpful, when being more introspective and looking inward is don't accept the darkest places of you. Like assess the labels you've put on yourself and assess the labels that you have accepted from other people. Um, you
I
know,
think, I mean, that is um, such a great recommendation. And a part of that is also like, there still might be some healing left to do
mm,
so that you're not just accepting those labels.
or
Um,
there might be some endings. Some relationships might have to end to allow
mhm.
you to be your golden self, to
Yeah.
move out of the
Yeah.
shadows of others. Um, yeah.
Another good
And
point.
then part of that shadow work though too, and part of especially the golden shadow work is what good characteristics about yourself are you hiding from? Like
Yeah.
one
And
of my favorite exercises that a coach had me do last year was anytime you're feeling down about yourself, Tracy, like get out of your own head, text your best friends and say, hey, I'm having a rough day. What makes me amazing? And I did it. I did it. I didn't give them any like exposition or context. Just one day I texted both of them and I was like, hey, having a rough day. What makes me amazing? And they both sent me I saved it in the notes in my phone and I go back to it. Very long list that these two people don't interact with each other at all. It's not like a friend circle. And they were very similar, very complimentary. And
and
now
I love it that you saved it in your notes
I
in your
saved it.
phone so you can go back to it.
Yeah, I still, there are still days when I do reach out. I'm like, God, I'm having a rough day. And I don't get quite the
Yeah.
same page because we've been doing it. But I've also set the stage for them to be able to do that too, and
Right.
to help them be their golden shadow or get through those dark moments. But
And I
it's
think
also
that's wonderful that you were, I don't know, you had enough self whatever to be able to say, I know I need some help right now, and I'm going to reach out to people I trust, and I'm going to ask for what I need.
well, and it's
Not everyone
also
does
part
it.
of it, when this I also did this for with a friends and family when I created my very first dating profile. Like, how do I sell myself? I know
Yeah.
I'm confident. I know I tend to try and meet people organically and go more off energy and feelings and stuff that way. And it's like,
Mhm.
what do I want to sell about myself? How are other people selling themselves? And finally, I was just like, hey, friends and family, what's great about me? And they helped me craft it.
Maybe we all need to, maybe we all need to craft a dating profile so that we understand what is good about ourselves.
Right? Send a quiz out. But again, only
Yeah. Yeah.
only accepting the labels that resonate with you, and thankfully, the people I asked kept everything very positive, and anything nice I
Yeah.
said about
Yeah.
myself, they didn't counteract. They didn't say, why are you putting that on there? That's not you. Where there are some people in my life that that might. that might try and hold me back, or might try, because of their own generational things, or how they
Yeah.
communicate, or how they were told to present themselves, or
That
just think
reminds
about
me once again of what we were talking about, the crabs in the bowl.
the crabs in the bowl.
Yep. You're getting out of the bowl and those other crabs pulling you back in. So one of the things that like popped up for me
Yeah.
as we were talking about this is, why are you afraid to shine? Right? Not you
Wow.
personally, any of us, right?
Oh no, I
Why
have
are
an
you
answer,
afraid?
but sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Why are you
You go to
afraid
the
to shine?
class.
Do you think you're going to outshine someone else? Maybe someone who you care about and you don't want to outshine them? Are you afraid you're going to become too bright and shiny and attract like internet trolls or something, or in real life trolls? I don't know.
Well, and that's actually something for me that I've thought about. And that, I've been to like some women workshops and stuff too, and just talking about how, when I am my brightest and best self, I attract everybody. I don't just attract the people I
Yeah.
want in my circle, the people I, aspire to be more like. You
Mhm.
get conflict and attention from everybody, and it's about how you react to it and how you kind of ward yourself, or cloak yourself, for a better term, and how you ignore it. But I think it's really common, especially if you start talking about the things you're proud about, if you start shining, it's going to upset people, and there are going to be commenters if you're on social media, or just negative
Mhm.
Nancy's and Debbie Downers. Why are they all female cliches? Where is there a male
Hey,
one?
what's going on here? Let's change that.
Negative Nicks. Um,
No, don't use Nick. That's my nephew's name. He's
oh
really
no.
positive. No, actually, he's not that
Well, there
positive
are nice Nicks
sometimes.
in the world too, and
Yeah.
delightful Debbies, and yeah. But to be people that either because they're in that more lack mindset of competition, or it's triggering for them.
Yeah.
And especially like you said, like outshine someone else. What if you have a sibling? What if you have a twin? What if they're having a rough life, and you're on track for you're living your best life?
Yeah. So
Uh,
what do you do? And so when you said like, when I'm shining my brightest, I attract everyone. So do you have like some tips about putting up your boundaries or not reacting to people? Or is that just it? Like maybe that's a whole nother show.
I think, for me, it started with just accepting and acknowledging that that was a thing and that it was okay. Um,
Hmm.
and acknowledging to myself, like, okay, either we can continue not to be our brightest self, and this is the type of life we'll have, and we'll still probably interact with people we don't want to, or we can do it anyways. And so some of it is, energetically. So just that concept of cloaking, I think,
Yeah.
ask and it is given, the Esther
Yeah. I actually
book.
have it from the library right now.
Yeah, so they kind of talk about how to kind of cloak yourself, at least energetically, so that it's not draining when it does happen. There are also
Hmm.
cord cutting meditations and things like that. So at least on an energetic level, you're not carrying it with you. And on an in-person level, I mean, I don't know. It'll depend on the situation, and where you're at, and how you choose to respond to conflict. But it's also you're always in charge of your own reaction and your own emotions. So for me, it's just was
Hmm.
doing that inner work of, it might happen in the moment and I trust myself to get through it, but I'm not going to carry that with me. Like, I'm just going to leave it there where it happened. I'm going to let that person carry that.
You don't need another dead body to be dragging around with you, right?
Yeah. And then, sometimes, there's definitely moments, online when people bring stuff up, there's a lot of talk
Mhm.
about cancel culture. It's
Mhm.
just about accountability, and so it's knowing, reflecting on your own posts. Is something I need to be accountable for? Is there some truth to whatever they're bringing up, or is it that lack mindset? In which case you ignore it. Negative attention is still attention, and I'm not going to give that person negative attention. Um, yeah. Do you have any tips for that, or have you encountered that?
Yeah, I think I would probably just reiterate everything you said. I tend to I used to react in a different way, and now I think I react more with either curiosity or just like, okay, that's just how you're living your life, I
Yeah.
guess. It makes it much less stressful your days are much less stressful. I can remember hearing someone say, and I think it might have been Jen Sincero in one of her books. I don't remember which one, but she said, if you were a, 6'7" tall person and somebody walked up to you and said, oh, you're such a, you're so short and dumpy or whatever, you'd just be like,
What's your perspective?
what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And just walk away, right? Because it doesn't affect you, because it's not your reality.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if we can separate ourselves, we don't have to become enmeshed with other people and what they have to say and what they think of us.
Mm-hmm.
Like the minute we, like you said, I don't want to give any kind of reaction to these people, because that's attention, even if it's negative, even if you're like, oh, you're stupid or whatever. Not that you would say that, but you're still giving them attention.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's that separation, and then just go on your way.
Yeah, that reminds me, somebody posted something on TikTok recently, and they posted it as like a question, or it was part of this meme that they were answering the question. And I responded like, this is inappropriate, and this is why I think why. Because this person had a huge platform, few million views. Don't know if they'd ever see my comment or not. But I was very respectful and was just like, I didn't care for this, and this is why. And somebody else wrote back almost immediately, like, F you, although they said the whole thing, this is just a fun post, how, blah, blah, blah. And then the middle finger emoji. And I was like, I could have continued to engage in that and be like, I understand that's the intent, but this is what they actually produced, and even if you want it to be fun, it doesn't mean it is, like, we're responsible for the words and thoughts we put out in the world. And instead I was just like, oh man, wow, that person just virtually flicked off another person with 5 emojis and told someone they've never met before, never have to speak to F off. Wow, did my comment make them think and reflect on their own thoughts and attitudes? I'm going to leave them with that.
I
could
love
have
it so
continued
much.
to engage. I could have other people kind of, engaged on my behalf, so to speak. And I just stopped looking at the notifications. And I was just like, and in the past, especially in my early 20s, when you just want everybody to like you, or like, oh no, what did I do wrong? I would have just been like trying to overly, explain myself, or deleting my comment, or, turning off notifications and comments. Instead, I was just like, wow, that person sure had a reaction. I went about my day. So I think it's all in how you choose to engage. But I also, my new thought process in life is less, I hope they like me, and more, I wonder if I like them. So that curiosity piece. And
Ooh, I
yeah,
love that,
it's so
Tracy.
freeing.
It
Yeah.
just, it seems very freeing.
Yeah. And it is, you do, on one hand, you do want the people you like to like you. But my opinion of them is far more important to me than their opinion to me. And it's a little selfish, but it's my life.
Really, I think that should be lesson 1 for, like, I don't know, life.
Yeah. But so that's that just shows I'm continuing to discover things about myself, both that I want to improve, or even just that untapped potential that we're both learning about. And even, that somebody might view me as their, golden shadow.
Yeah.
And so it's, I want to ask the listeners, like, do you define yourself as being fully cooked, or is there more to you to uncover yet in life?
I love it.
And at what age, if you do feel done, at what age should that happen? Because
Right.
it's so easy to feel like, oh, I can't change careers. I can't start this hobby. I can't become a famous actor. Like, didn't Julia Child not even start cooking until in her 40s?
I think you're right. It might have even been old. She might have even been older than that. I mean, when you think about, I'm just trying to think, I said this before, that my mom said there's never a line in the sand, but she used to have this whole thing about people who started very late in life doing what they're doing and becoming very successful. But also, I'm just wondering if people who think they're done and think they're content with where they're at, is that just like the easy button?
Mm.
Is that just, it's so much easier and there's no conflict and you don't have to work hard at anything
It's
and
the
you
simple
don't have to
life that was
fail.
handed to me. I
Yeah.
don't yeah, I don't have to fail. Ooh, that hit home.
Yeah. Because failing, just because you've uncovered a golden shadow doesn't mean you might not fail
Mhm.
at time or 17, right?
So, whether you're still, cooking or you thought you were done, but now you're intrigued, a way to get there, to kind of reclaim your gold, so to speak, is to think about, are there parts of you that you want or uh, to recognize or need to reclaim in order to achieve goals or set new ones? So you can think about an underdeveloped skills you'd like to focus
Yeah.
on, self-doubt to overcome, that submerged potential. I work right now. I work in risk
I know.
management, and we often do, as part of risk management, we do SWOT analysis, and so that stands for strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat. So the word risk, often people think of the word risky and, ooh, I can't do that, or I shouldn't do that, or that's a bad thing. Risk is actually split into two categories: threat, yes, the bad, what we don't want to have happen, but opportunity, like staying stagnant in life, it is a threat. Like you
It
can miss
absolutely is.
opportunities, you cannot
Hmm.
create or generate opportunities,
Hmm.
and you'll be worse for it. There's a lot of things in life you can go for, and it's not all about like that defensive plane of avoiding a threat. And so I encourage everybody,
Hmm.
to draw that grid, have a box for what you think your current strengths are. And I encourage you to reach out to your friends. It was really nice to hear from them. Also, what you think your weaknesses are, where you think opportunities are, and not just based on your strengths, but also based on your weaknesses, not just what you think you can do, but maybe what you've always wanted to do, those golden shadow areas. And then your threats too, because your threats, you might have to assess, are they real, are they imagined, are they just further shadow work you have to do, are they things you
Yeah.
can overcome? In risk management, when we talk about threat and risk, we talk about, you can mitigate it, you can accept it, you can transfer it. There's all this stuff you can do with threat, beyond just being like, yep, that exists and I'm not gonna move.
Yeah. And I think too, especially if you are, say you're in, I don't know, like if you have a partner or you have children or something like that, is the threat, are you worried that it's like is it their threat or is it your threat?
Mm,
Like
mm.
whose is it?
Yeah, what
Like,
are you
let's get,
projecting or
yes,
expecting? Mm-hmm.
again with the projecting, right? I think another thing too that I really want people to think about is um oftentimes the things that we love to do or thought we wanted to do when we were maybe, I don't know, 6, 7, all the way to
Mm-hmm.
maybe 12, 13. That's a really good time to look at yourself because usually after 12 or 13, everything is just like squashed down, right?
Yeah.
But think about things that you wanted to do when you were a kid or that you like to do when you were a kid
And then
too.
also, if those things seem unattainable, like for me, I wanted to be a judge and I didn't really understand what a judge was, but it goes back to those same things, the golden shadows I see in celebrities, that they're highly intelligent, they were very hardworking, very smart,
Mhm.
so I can still be those things or express those things. I don't have to become a judge.
And
I
people
didn't.
had to listen to them.
I
So
actually
you are
wanted to get into
actually,
judges. I
you're
don't.
a judge right now, Tracy.
Say
See?
more.
Well, you're highly intelligent, you work hard, you what was the other thing that you said about the judge?
I
What
don't
was it
know.
again? Well, anyways, it was that, and
Profound.
profound, and then people listen to you. There you go.
Wow.
There, here's your
8-year-old Tracy
gift.
would be so excited. But so, you know, it's about casting your own light, right? Both for yourself, just to be,
Mm,
your authentic self, but then also allow others to see the gold in you, because you might inspire somebody else, you might influence someone else, you might be that support somebody else needed that motivation.
Yeah.
But circling back to Betty, whose TikTok inspired everything today, she had closed out her message with, and I'm stealing it, but I'm giving her credit. You have recognized and resonated with something. If you have resonated with something, why can't you do it? What is stopping you from doing it? You admire it and you wish you could. So what is stopping you? Next time you have these moments, question it. Do I have the potential to do that?
That it honestly, it's going to make me, I won't just mindlessly scroll through things anymore, right? Now I look at things and actually pull them apart and look at the pieces. And I think the question, the last one, do I have the potential to do that? Obviously, if you're attracted to it, I think you probably do have the potential. But then I feel like then the step is, what's the first? And we've talked about this with goals. I'm sure in other episodes. What's like the first small step I can do towards this?
I have one.
Do you? Okay.
So as we talked a lot about shadow work, it's become really popular on social media to talk about. A lot of coaches go through it. I think the first step for any of this is thinking past you or thinking today you for getting you to where you are. Instead of thinking, wow, I'm 36. Why haven't I done this already? Or I can't do this already? Or why didn't I recognize I had these opportunities and potential before? You are here now having these thoughts, this ability to do this work because of the work past you did. So I think acknowledging and thanking and expressing gratitude for that clears the stage for you to feel freer to move forward
Oh,
here and now, right? You have to stay
yes, it clears the stage.
you can't be in the past at what you did or didn't do, and you can't project too far into the future as to overwhelm yourself with all that there is to do. I think you have to start with just being that present focus. So
And boy, honestly, when I just think about when you think about just like thanking yourself and being in the present moment and saying thank you for getting me here and for making me be the person who looks at this thing and wants to have this potential, that then you're filled with such a different energy than that, oh, look at that, look at what they're doing, I'm not doing that.
And you've brought this up a few times. Like, you're gonna have to work for it. I mean,
Yeah.
you have bad habits you've been doing, you have good habits to implement, you have the self-limiting beliefs to work through, like you're gonna have to do the work, and then you also have the skills to learn and build and grow. But I think it's important to remember, it's better to half-ass something than not do it at all.
I
Doing
couldn't agree more. Like,
getting
just
started and
do it.
doing any of it, doing 30 minutes a week, 15 minutes a week, just writing down the thing and kind of looking at it. Like, you don't have to dedicate 40 hours a week to become good at something. It is going to take time, but that practice will grow overall. I'm right now working with this amazing energy coach. And one of the goals that we set for myself today, I absolutely loved her for this. She goes, how does it sound to just say you're going to do it 3 times a week? Not that you're going to do it these specific days at these specific times or for this long, but like, how does it feel to just say, I'm going to do it 3 times in a week? Could be 2 in a day, 3 in a day. It could be, sporadically throughout the week, but like, how does that feel? And I was like, that seems so much more freeing and easier, and not like one more task to do that I know I can do that. And I'm much more likely at the start of the week to be like, wow, I'm going to do one now. Like, I don't want to save them all for the end. Like, I'm self-aware enough to recognize how stressful that would be. But so it's little things like that. Like, can I work this in with my one good cup of coffee? Just reflecting. You don't, the analysis paralysis piece gets us.
Yeah.
If you want to be a painter, start, watching a YouTube video, start by getting some supplies, start by just freaking paint by number, like.
Yeah. I know that I did not come up with this either, but it's coming into my head. And I wish I could remember who first said this, where I saw this. I don't remember. This is not me. However, have you ever watched a kid paint? Like, if you wanted to be a painter, okay? The hell they care? They don't care. They're like, look at this, put it up on the refrigerator. And then they might go, oh, that's terrible. And it looks exactly like the first one, right? But they don't care. They're doing it to do it, which can be freeing as well. And I think sometimes you do, I'm all about the doing. So maybe you get out there and you start doing the thing that you want to do. And maybe it's like hard and it kind of sucks, but you did it once and now you can try doing it again, right?
Yes, we're in a culture of it's not okay to be a novice as an adult. Um or that's what the world makes you think. But I admire adults who start new things, so it's like, why am I limiting myself by saying like, oh
Yeah.
gosh, I can't go and start archery. I've never done that before. I've never been a rock climber. And
Yeah.
then at the same time, look at these women 20 years older than me and being like, wow, that's so cool. They're starting this new thing. Like,
I know you see it in other people. You're like, look at them start this new thing.
Yeah.
My 33, 34, 30. Sorry, Joey. Year old has started taking French because he has this goal and it's a big goal. But his first step in the process, he was like, I'm going to have to know how to speak French. So he invested in a course. He's taking French. He also knows his limitations. He has dyslexia. And so they want you to also spell the word. He's like, no, that's not happening. So, right. But the fact that he's putting himself out there, so then he does, like, he's signed up for these Zoom classes with French and just like, he's fine being a beginner because his eye is on this thing over here.
But so that mindset brings me to our tarot card for today's show, which is the Ace of Swords. So hold that up. So it's this hand, this magical hand, looking like it's coming from the clouds, holding a double-edged sword in the sky over some mountain ranges. It's very bright and shiny, and it has a crown with some ivy, I think.
Laurels. I think it's
Laurels.
laurel. Yep.
Thank you. And then there are even some like golden leaves coming off of it. But so what made me, his mindset, the Ace of Swords is about generating new ways of thinking.
Yes.
So you can't change who you are. You can't achieve new things by staying the same. If you say that, if your ways of thinking are the same, you're not going to achieve whatever it is you're trying to go for, because it's a new thing. So you have to think differently. But it's about being, and these are all from the Biddy Tarot. But mind and expansion mode, bursting with creativity and fresh ideas, get to the truth as quick as possible. Swords are represent air in the elements, so it's much more, your mental and your mind. But it also talks about that with power comes responsibility, because it is a double-edged sword, and you can create or destroy. And so I think that brings us back to both of our first kind of examples of our golden shadows we see in others. And you can let it inspire you to create new things in your life for yourself, or you can let it destroy you in everything you think you can't do.
Yes.
So it's an inner truth. If you want those bright and shiny moments, you have to do the work. It's all inside. It's all you. You can ask others for reinforcement, but it's comes down to you. Yeah. So, wow. We covered a lot today.
We did. I learned a lot.
Yeah, I think this is a concept, as with most Jungian things. I hope we revisit it again and again, because it inspired me and made me look differently at the stuff in myself that I haven't done or I can't do or that I want to do, and to instead see that interest as potential versus something I haven't done yet. It's something I'm about to do.
Well, and I think just you saying that, the potential, something you're about to do, that reminds me actually of the Ace of Swords. All the ace cards I feel are like opportunities. Like, here's this opportunity. Here's this.
It's a start of a cycle, right?
Yes, it is.
The beginning in tarot.
It's the beginning. Yes, I love it. Perfect card for this.
Well, next week we're going to talk about something I feel like To be your brightest and shiniest self is to not be that just for your own I don't know, good fortune, but it's also to be there for others. And so, the world is starting to reopen in many places. May Day or May 1st is approaching, which in some cultures, you ding dong ditch your neighbors with baskets full of goodies.
Ding dong ditch.
I know last year I did it for my 92-year-old neighbor, Joan. I absolutely love her, but I got her a little potted plant from the grocery store and a nice little card. And I think I baked some treats and I hung it in the gift bag on her door, rang the doorbell, and I ran away. And she called and she's like, Tracy, why didn't you wait for me to answer the door? And I was like, why didn't you sign the card, Tracy? I know it's from you. And I was like, it says Happy May Day. Like, this is this new? Was this not around 92 years ago? But so for me, I may have brought this up in the past, but when I have a bad day, I like to make others have a good day. A common kind of suggestion for people in the throes of deep depression, not knowing where to start, is to volunteer. It's to get out of your own head and help other people. And then also, like I said, just when I'm my brightest and shiniest self, I'm just more inclined to just be there for others, whether they need it or not, just like help, support, or just be, those shining moments in someone's life. And so we're going to be starting this series this year on being a blessing to everyone you meet. It's a concept and an affirmation that we talk about a lot and that we both like. But for part 1, it's going to be about getting outside of yourself or thinking of others. So you don't have to be a blessing to everyone you meet, but you get to. I'm not saying I'm at a point where I can do that anytime I'm in a bad mood or depressed or even every day. Sometimes you need other people to be that for you. And I try and be what I want out in the world. Is that the quote? Doesn't Gandhi have a quote like that?
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll dive more into that. I guess I don't have to fill it.
I'm
in
excited
the next
to
5
talk
minutes.
about that. Yeah, we don't have to talk about it right now.
we're not and with that we conclude episode 16.
2 for 1, folks. 2 for 1. Well, if this episode has been a blessing to you, if it spoke to you, if it spoke to your soul, please share it with a friend. Give us some love on whatever your preferred platform is. Rate, review, subscribe. We love you. You can also reach out to us via Instagram and YouTube under The Brightly Podcast and via email at brightlypodcast@gmail.com.
And with that, we hope you have a bright and beautiful and golden day.
Love it.